The last average that we're going to compute in this lesson is the weighted average. The weighted average is a calculation that is going to consider the relative importance, also known as the weight, of each of the data values. Using the weight, we're going to calculate the weighted average. Here we have the formula for the weighted average. Okay. We're going to take each data value, x, and we're going to multiply it by its corresponding weight, which is w. So that is why you see w times x. So we're going to take w times x for each different data value. Then we're going to take the sum of those values. Once we have the sum of those values, we're going to divide by the sum of the weights. Let's consider an example to help us see how we use the formula to calculate the weighted average. At the end of the quarter, a student has the following grades on Canvas for a Math and 141 class. What is the student's overall percentage in the class? So it might not be clear that you're being asked to find the weighted average, but that is what you're being asked to do. Why? Because you're going to have some scores. Notice the scores are going to be your data values. So here you have a score of 97% on the homework, 81% on exam 1, 72% on exam 2, 85% on the final exam. Here on the left, we have the weights. Remember, the weight of a data value represents how significant that value is. For example, let's look at the highest weight. The highest weight is 50%. What does that mean? That means that this data value, 97%, has the highest contribution to our average weight. To compute the weighted average, we take the sum of each of the data values times its corresponding weight. For example, we have the data value equal to 94. The weight for this data value is 50. So we're going to go ahead and multiply those two values. Plus, we're going to take the data value 81 and we're going to multiply it by the weight, which is 15. Plus, the data value 72 times its weight, which is 15. The last one we have is 85 times 20. Now, it doesn't matter if you take the weight times the data value or the data value times its weight. Okay? It doesn't matter if you do 94 times 50 or 50 times 94. We're going to be dividing this expression by the sum of the weights. So we have 50 plus 15 plus 15 plus 20. If you type this into your calculator, you should be getting 86.95%. 86.95% is the student's overall percentage in the class. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how to compute the weighted average using technology. Let's use the calculator first. Go to statistics. Go ahead and click enter. We're going to edit a list. I'm going to write the data values under list 2 first. Make sure to follow along with your calculator. Once you're done entering the data values, go ahead and move to another list. I'm going to use L3. And that is where you want to type in the weights. So we have 50, 15, 15, and 20. Here on my calculator, I have the data values under L2. I have the weights under L3. You want to go back to stats, press on the right arrow. This is going to let you see the options that you have under calculation. Click on the first option. Okay. Here I need to enter the list that has the data values. In my case, L2 has the list of the data values. I'm going to click second 2 to enter L2. Okay. Then let's go down to frequency list. Here we're going to enter the list containing the weights. In my case, I have the weights under L3. I'm going to click second 3 to enter L3. Okay. We're going to go down to calculate, press enter. And there you have it. We have the weighted average 86.95. Now, your calculator is not that advanced. It's not going to write weighted average. It's just going to keep the symbol X bar. Now, let me show you how to do this on I'm going to show you how to do this on Google Sheets. Under one column, we're going to enter all the data values. We have 94, 81, 72, and 85. Under another column, we're going to enter the weights. We have 50, 15, 15, and 20. If we want to calculate the weighted average, we're going to click on an empty cell, type in the equal sign, and notice Google Sheets is thinking that I want to add the values under the first column. That's not what I want to do. I'm going to type in weighted. Here I see the option to click on average dot weighted. I'm going to click on that option. This function on Google Sheets is going to want all the data values first and then the weights. Okay. If you do it the other way around, you're not going to get the correct answer. I'm going to select all the data values. Then we're going to type a comma, and then we're going to select the weights. Close the parentheses, click enter. And there you have it. That is the weighted average. Okay. Again, if you do it the other way around, if you select the weights first and then the data values, you're going to get the wrong answer. That is the reason why when I use Google Sheets, I make sure to type in the data values on the left and then the weights on the right. That way I remember I'm supposed to provide the data values first and then the weights. Now, here I have another example related to weighted average. Okay. We're going to read it together, and then I'm going to let you finish this on your own. Suppose a student is in a class where the final exam is worth 20% of their grade, and everything else together is worth 80%. Is 80%? Does that make sense? Yes, because if the final is 20%, then everything else is going to be the other 80%. 80% plus 20 is 100%. Now, before the final, the student has a grade of 72% in the class. That 72% does not include the final exam. This 70% is the grade for everything else. Now, the question here is what percent do they need to get on the final exam to earn a 75% for the class? What is that 75%? This 75% would be the overall grade, which is the weighted average. Okay. Let's go ahead and organize this information on the table below. We have the final exam, and here we need to enter the score for the final exam. We don't know what the score for the final exam is, so I'm just going to write a question mark. Okay. Now, we do know that the weight is 20%. Now, we do have the score for everything else. The score for everything else is 80%. Not the weight for everything else is 72%. Okay. So for everything else, we do have the data value, which is the score 80%, and we do have the weight. For the final exam, we don't know what the score is. Okay. Now we know that the weighted average is equal to 75%. So if you wanted to calculate the weighted average, right, we would say, well, the weighted average is going to be the final score, so question mark, times 20% plus 80%, which is the score for everything else, times its weight, which is 72, right? That is how we calculate the weighted average. And let me just use black here. Then we divide by the sum of the weights, which in this case is, you should add up to 100. I'm noticing that I made a mistake. I switched the score and the weight. So let me go back. The score for everything else is 72. So I should have 72. I should have 72 under the first column. And then the 80% is the weight. Okay. So is it really important not to make that mistake? Good thing I caught my mistake. So again, we're taking the score times the weight for the final exam plus the score times the weight for everything else. Then we're dividing by the sum of the weights. Now we are getting 100, which is 80 plus 20. This is how we compute the weighted average. Now, the weighted average, whatever we get when we make this computation, has to be 75%. Because the weighted average is equal to this expression that we have on the right. We know that we are supposed to get 75. So that is why I'm saying this has to be equal to 75. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and help you with some of the algebra here. Notice 80 plus 20 is 100. So I'm just going to go ahead and write 100 here. Now 80 times 72 is 5,760. So I'm going to go ahead and replace 80 times 72 with 5,760. We need to go ahead and isolate the question mark. We want the question mark to be by itself on one side of the equation. That way we have question mark is equal to something, to some value. Okay. So to do that, we're going to have to cancel this division here on the left. To cancel a division by 100, we need to multiply both sides, everything on the right-hand side, by 100. Same thing on the other side. We need to multiply 75 by 100. We really just want to multiply the right-hand side by 100 to cancel that division by 100, but whatever we do to one side, we do it to the other. On the left-hand side, we have 100 times 75, which is 7,500. And this is equal to the question mark times 20 plus 5,760. At this point, I think you can solve for the question mark. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you a hint. If you're trying to solve for the question mark, you need to undo the addition by 5,760. Then you need to undo this multiplication by 20. Okay. Remember, when you're solving for this, when you're undoing that addition and multiplication, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. I'm going to ask you to enter your answer below this video. Once you submit the assignment, you should be able to come back to the assignment and see a note under the question that is going to show you the steps that you need to take to solve the equation.